Hello guys, I am back from another video and today we're talking about what if Deku was in RWBY. So, in the last video we talked about how, as we see Izuku basically packing up all of his things, his, somewhat mentor slash, guardian, aka Kira, would ask him what is he doing. As he would explain that he's moving to go to Vale to become a hunter so that he can, protect people from all of the grim, and not only that, to maybe even try and find his, long lost friends, aka, Nora and, Ren. After saying that, he would basically tell him that it's okay for him to basically leave, but he thought he's going to be staying here for a little while, a little longer. But he would say that there's probably a time now that he's probably going to be, leaving anyway. After hearing that, he would say this. Well, that is, sort of makes sense. After saying that, Izuku would also tell him that he's going to be coming back, maybe in the future. After being told of this, he would decide to tell him that he's going to be, giving him something. And after bringing him towards a little area, he would be given these brand new clothing, which are basically used for what they call a pilgrimage, and including the mask, which is going to be acting as his, is a sign of his devotion. And after being given these clothes, he would decide to wear them as he would say goodbye to his mentor slash, father figure. Sort of. It's more like a brotherly figure than anything else. But either way, he would basically leave saying goodbye to him and the rest of his, sort of family. Many years later, Izuku is now basically, arrived there as, I've forgotten to tell you guys all of this, but, he's not really, he's, midway to, becoming 17, but he's still 16. Wait for a second. Sorry about that. And after, arriving at Vale, which is his destination, he would basically, ask for an apartment, and after arriving at the apartment complex, would basically pay the landlord, and would basically start, live there. After a while, basically looking at the scroll and seeing the news, mostly about, how White Fang is starting to become a little bit more aggressive in its, tactics, but either way, he would basically start to become a little bit hungry, and so would start leaving to go to a little restaurant. After meeting a little bit of an historian, which he wanted to, learn about how the Temple of Om works, but Izuku would tell him that it's more of a secret, but would, let him take pictures of him, even though it felt a bit weird. After taking off his, not really taking off, but, his mask, I've also forgotten to tell you this, it allows him to basically open up the mask, more specifically the mouth part, which allows him to eat. And after, eating, he would basically start to leave as he would start, feeling a little bit, worried because he only has a few, dust crystals left. So he decides to go to a dust shop to basically, get some new dust. After arriving at a dust shop by the name of Dust Till Dawn, he would arrive at the shop and would meet with the owner, and after finding some dust, he would start to, hear a bit of a conversation, more specifically, something unsavory, to say the least. Unsavourly. In this case, a man by the name of Roman Torchwick seems to be, threatening the shopkeeper and telling him to give him all of the dust that he has. After being told of this, he would start, giving all of the dust that he has. And when Izuku saw this, Izuku decided to step in, but before he can, a girl with a hood would basically, stop the attack instantly. She seems to be wearing some sort of red scarf and a red dress with, not really a red dress, but more like a black dress than anything else, but with red trimming and a silver rose on her, belt. She also seems to be wielding a large-ass fucking scythe. Yeah, that doesn't seem terrifying at all. And after, basically doing a little bit of action, basically, how do I say this? Basically throwing the guy off the window. And let's just say Roman Torchwick and his gang would start fighting the girl. Izuku decided to join in by using the Ashura path to basically, blast them all away with his, I guess you could say aura missiles because, remember, it's not chakra, so it's gonna be aura, instead of aura, it's, not really, I meant, instead of chakra, it's replaced with aura, I meant. So, after, doing that, the girl by the name of, Ruby Rose would introduce herself and was pretty interested in his, semblance. After telling her that he's going to be telling her, soon enough after this little conversation, this little battle, Roman Torchwick would start escaping as Izuku would start following him with the help of Ruby. As you would notice that her semblance seems to be a type of speed semblance, which allows her to basically transform into a bunch of rose petals, which thought it would be, pretty much a complete coincidence in his mind, because remember, her name is Ruby Rose, and she's able to transform into rose petals to become super speedy. Yeah, that doesn't seem like a coincidence at all. Anyway, so, as you would arrive at the rooftop, seeing the guy, aka Roman Torchwick, getting ready to go on a large ass, bullhead, Izuku would decide to use the animal path to basically stop them from escaping. When, they saw the large ass freaking bird that's basically flying overhead, a person, or more specifically, girl basically covered in shadow, would start attacking them with fire. And when Izuku was about to be, attacked, a girl with blonde hair and green eyes would appear, as she would basically block all of the attacks with her semblance, which seems to be a type of semblance that specializes in telekinesis. And after a while of fighting and, being defeated by, her, as in, distracted by her, they would escape, as after, escaping, the girl with the blonde hair and somewhat almost teacherly-like outfit and the riding crop would basically tell them to basically go to the police station immediately to, answer, some questions. And after that, we basically ended off the episode right there. So yeah, let us talk about what happens next. So, Izuku and with Ruby, they're currently in the police station's, interrogation room, as we see them basically in front of the girl. As she would say this, mind telling me why did you decide to engage in a battle between one of the most influential and one of the most dangerous, crime bosses imaginable? Tell me exactly. As Izuku would say this, in my defense, it's more like, self-defense than anything else. As Ruby would say this, yeah, and wait for a second. Sorry about that. As Izuku would just say this, yeah, it's more like self-defense than anything else. As Ruby would say this, yeah, and besides, they were trying to threaten us. As she would say this, if it was up to me, I would just give you a pat on the back. As Ruby would basically have a happy expression, but Izuku would know that there's a catch. As she would say this, and a slap on the wrist for daring to try and fight them. As she would slap her riding crop on, on Ruby's hands. As she would say, ow. She would say with a little bit of a scared tone. After saying that, she would say this, I hope both of you are ready for the punishment that they're going to be. But before she could say anything else, a man would appear. This man seems to have... Sorry about that, as we see a man with grayish hair, or silverish if you guess. I still think it's gray because he's pretty old at the time, as he also has glasses and seems to be wielding a mug, as he seems to be sipping on, at least he thinks it's coffee, or at least he thinks. But he also seems to be wielding a cane, probably thinking that he has some sort of back problem, and he also seems to be wearing a green scarf and also a green, I guess you could say, button-up shirt. As you would see this. So you must be the kids that fought off Mr. Roman, right? As after hearing that, Ruby would say this. Yeah, we defeated them, and... Wait for a second, god dang it. Sorry about that. As he seems to be, he would say this. You must be the kids that fought off Mr. Roman Torchwick, right? Right. As after saying that, Izuku would say this. Yeah, but it's more like self-defense than anything else. Sorry about that. It was more, for safety class, as he would say this. Yeah, but it's more like, it's for self-defense, as he would say this. I see. Now, why do you always close your eyes? And actually, I recognize that mask and those clothes. After saying that, he would say this. So I'm guessing you know the religion of right? As he would say this. Well, obviously. After saying that, he would say this. Then you probably know why you wear these clothing. As he would say this. Yeah, Are you perhaps a traveler? Or should I say a pilgrimer from, you know, from Bistro, might I add, as he would say this. Yes, I came here to Vale to become a hunter. After hearing this, he would say this. Oh, you want to become a hunter, you say. As after hearing that, he would say this. Yeah. After hearing this, he would say this. How interesting. As you would look at Ruby, as he would say this. Ha, you have silver eyes. After saying that, she would say this. Yeah, haha. I get it from my mother. She would say with a happy tone, as he would say this. How interesting. Well then, are you perhaps, wait for a second. Do you perhaps know me by any chance? After saying this, Izuku would say this. Well, it's pretty obvious. You're Professor Ozpin from Beacon Academy. As after hearing this, he would say this. Correct. And, well, he would say with a somewhat, tired tone, as he would say this. Well, I want you to join Beacon Academy. After hearing this, the girl would say this. Ozpin, what are you doing? I mean, they're pretty much reckless and, as he would say this. Don't worry, Glinda. I can see quite powerful and great, potential in these future hunters. And huntress in this case. As after hearing this, she would say this. Wait, really? Even though I'm 15? After hearing this, a certain blonde-haired, prude over there would say this. What? She would say, with, an angry tone as she would say this. Not only did you endanger yourself, but you're 15, she would say, as after looking at Izuku would say this. Well, I am 16, but I'm soon going to be, 17 soon, so, as after hearing this, he would say this. Good, then I will allow you to go to Beacon Academy as well, as Izuku would say this. Well, that's my luck, he would say, as he would say this. Quite lucky, I guess. Anyway, both of you, are you perhaps living somewhere, as Izuku would say this? Well, I'm living in an apartment nearby. So, yeah, as after hearing this, he would say this. Very well then. Then meet me in a few months. Got it? He would say, as they would basically, say, okay then. As he would basically say this. Oh, and I almost forgot. As he would bring out a plate of cookies. And when Ruby saw them, she would go like automatic search, looking towards cookies, just like starts grabbing them instantly and starts chowing them down. As Izuku would say, is her stomach a freaking black hole, he would say, as Ozpin would say this. She's quite the kid, he would say, as Izuku would say this. Yeah, sure, he would say, as Izuku would say this. So, am I free to go? As when hearing this, she would say this, specifically Ruby. Yeah, are we free to go exactly? As he would say this. Yes, you're allowed to go now. After hearing this, they would start to leave and saying goodbye to Ozpin. After leaving, Glinda would say this, aka the blonde-haired girl with green eyes. Do you seriously think that you can be allowed in Beacon Academy? I mean, I can definitely see why Izuku is allowed because he's 1 year younger than, particularly, to some members of Beacon. I mean, some of them are just 16, but most of them are 17. But for Ruby, aka Mr. Silver Eyes over there, wait for a second. Sorry about that, it's another lecture from my, teacher for safety. Anyway, continuing on with the episode, after saying this, he would say this specifically, Ozpin. Oh, don't worry. Besides, I can see quite the potential in them. Especially Izuku over there. After saying this, she would say this. Why exactly? As he would say this. It's just a hunch, I guess you could say. After hearing this, she would say this. I'm gonna be leaving, she would say with an angry tone as she would start to leave. As he would say this. Izuku Midoriya, you certainly are interesting. Including you, Miss Rose, he would say. And so we basically go back to Izuku. as Izuku's basically gone back to his apartment as he would basically fall asleep. The next few months have gone by as Izuku's currently been training. Training mostly with his, Tensegon and Sharingan. He recently learned how to use, the Anomarasu, which is still pretty much uncontrollable, but he can somewhat, control it thanks to the help of the Rinnegan, because remember, it's sort of the, origin of all dojutsu. Sort of. I mean, the Jogan and also, the... what is that called? I can't remember the actual name of that, but it's the Otsutsuki's god, the Otsutsuki god's, dojutsu. I can't really remember. But I do know the Jogan, and I can't remember anything else. I did remember that it was planning to maybe add, another type of, other type of Jojutsu. It's the one that basically uses, blood-rich anything, and basically manipulates it. It's basically that. Like, for example, blood. But I won't be adding that, because I was a bit tired at the time, and I was also busy at school. But either way, we basically go back to Izuku. Izuku has been training with his brand new abilities like Anomarasu, and even learned how to use another ability of his, Six Tomoe Rinnegan, which is the human path, which allows him to basically take away souls. He learned it after, let's just say, grabbing a bird and basically sucking the soul out of it. After doing that, he would decide to put back the soul, but he would think it's pretty useful. And when he tried it on the dog, let's just say it was a rabbit dog at the time, because it was attacking him, he would decide to use the Six Tomoe Rinnegan's, human path to basically grab the dog's soul and would basically absorb it into his being. After doing that, he would get all of the memories of the dog. Yeah, mostly about mating and taking shits and probably eating the shit. Don't even ask how I know that, as after seeing that memory, or at least all of these memories, he would think, well, I guess it's pretty useful, but sucking the soul is definitely pretty much a bad trade-off, he would say in his mind. But either way, he would basically start to leave. After leaving, we would be seeing Izuku going back home, as Izuku would start getting ready for the first day, or sort of first day, of Beacon, when it's finally the initiation day, which is tomorrow. And so Izuku would basically, rest up, basically taking a shower and basically putting on his sleeping clothes, as he would take off his mask, seeing his face. After doing that, he would fall to sleep. The next day comes as it's finally the day of the initiation, as Izuku is basically wearing, his typical attire, which is this. But even though it doesn't look like it's, combat ready, it actually is. So, after wearing his, mask with it, he would basically start leaving to go to, the bullhead. Several people would recognize him, or at least some of them, because none of them don't even know what the heck, why is he wearing that. What most of them think is probably for intimidation tactics, but some of them don't really know why exactly. As Izuku is basically sitting down, he would basically notice a few people nearby. One of them was pretty recognizable, being RWBY, and a blonde-haired girl basically talking to her, as when she looked over and see Izuku, she would say, "Ah, Izuku, you're here!" After saying that, she would basically sped towards him, as Izuku would say this, "Oh, hello RWBY," he would say, as RWBY would say this, "Huh, I can't believe that you're actually coming with us. I mean, it's pretty awesome," as Izuku would say this. "Yeah, I actually wanted to become a hunter myself, and I'm pretty excited to finally become one, or at least in the future." As after saying that, she would say this. Yeah, she would basically laugh a little bit, but before they can say anything else, they would look over and would see the blonde-haired beauty. She seems to have blonde hair that seems to be curly and quite long, and, violet eyes. She seems to be wearing, some brown clothing with some, yellow accents, as she seems to be wearing gauntlets, as she would say this. "Hey, RWBY? Who's this?" She would say, "Oh, this is my friend Izuku. We actually met earlier when we, when we fought the Torchwick guy." After saying that, she would say this. "Oh, you're the guy that basically saved my sister. Thank you for that," as Izuku would say this. You're welcome. It was pretty much, a common response after all. After saying that, she would say this. By the way, what's with your mask? As Izuku would say this. Well, it's sort of a tradition in my, homeland in Mistral. I actually lived in a monastery worshipping the god Om. After hearing that, she would say, "Oh, those ones. Huh. It's actually my first time seeing a person like you here." As Izuku would say this. Yeah, I get that a lot. After saying that, dude basically sit down and started talking a little bit. And after a while talking, they would slowly hear the sound of vomiting? As they would look over and would see a girl. A girl with blondish hair and... So, we would see a girl with blonde hair and blue eyes, wielding a sword on her hip, to be more specific, and she seems to be vomiting. As after seeing her, Ruby would say this, "Ew, ew, you got something on your feet, not Amber, I meant Yang." After hearing this, Yang would say this, "Oh, I got barf all over me," she would say, on her, on her shoes, as when Izuku would look over and would see a bit of vomit on her shoes, as she would start throwing it towards Ruby, as she would say, "Ew, ew, no!" After saying that, Izuku would just look over and would just think, "You're kinda childish," he would think. But either way, he would basically start looking back towards, a nearby, window. As while he was looking at the window, he would see a large hologram of the woman from last night. As the woman would introduce herself as Glinda, and would start saying a speech about how they're the prestigious few to basically join Beacon Academy. A academy that will basically, train them on becoming, train them on how to become great hunters, and would teach them how to protect the world that they live in. AKA, I almost said Tavon. God damn it! I meant Remnant, not Tavon. Okay, I still have Genshin Impact in the brain. Fucking damn it. Anyway, continuing on with the episode, as while this speech was going on, I guess you can say, wait for a second, as the hologram would basically disappear, basically gonzo. After seeing that, Izuku would say this. Well, that is quite interesting, he would say. But either way, they would make it towards the place known as Beacon. As you would start getting off the, getting out of the large, bullhead, as you would start moving towards, where they're supposed to be. Going towards Beacon, aka the, where they're supposed to be, doing the initiation. After arriving there, they would see a few people basically nearby, as Ruby was admiring some of the people's weapons and powers, or at least some of them. As while she was doing that, Yang would basically bring him into a corner, but Izuku would just ignore them. While he was moving towards, a few areas around, around Beacon, as you would realize, wait, where are we supposed to be going? He would say in his mind, but either way, he would start to hear something, specifically a crash. As when Izuku heard this, he would look over and would see Ruby basically on the ground, as a few debris, or more specifically some luggage, basically nearby, as you would see a few dust cartridges, as you would recognize the packaging, as this packaging seems to be packaging from Disney Dust Company. After seeing this, he would also recognize the girl that was basically, bumped into by Ruby. The girl seems to have white hair and blue eyes, and seems to be wearing a simple white dress with some, with some red and, blue trimming. After looking at the girl, he would realize that's Weiss Schnee, aka the heiress to the Schnee Dust Company. After seeing her, Izuku would start walking over there to basically, help her out. As while she was arguing, with Ruby about something about, bumping into her, saying that she was adult, but Izuku would just ignore it, as he would grab some of the, some of the dust, that was basically thrown all over the, area. As after getting some of it, Izuku would say this. Hey, miss? As she would say this. What is it, you... As she would basically look at the, mask that he's wearing, as she would say, what's with the mask? She would say, as Izuku would say this. Well, I am a pilgrimer, or more specifically, from the Temple of Om, but either way, Here, this must be yours. As she would say, oh, thank you, she would say. And may I ask, who are you exactly? And you certainly are a bit weird. As after hearing this, Izuku would say this. Well, I am from, Mistral, more specifically the Temple of Om, but either way, you must be Waishni, I'm guessing, as she would say this. Finally, somebody recognizes me. As after hearing this, Izuku would say this. Yeah, I guess so. You would basically say, as you would look over to Ruby, as you would say this. Are you perhaps okay, Ruby? After hearing this, she would say, oh, I'm fine. After saying this, Izuku would say this. Anyway, I should probably, as before he can do anything else, Wise would start going on a rant saying that, why is Ruby here and why is she so young to basically be here in the first place? And saying that she's not allowed here mostly because, she's young and not only that, a bit of adult. After hearing this, Izuku would just ignore it and would basically pick up, Ruby. After doing so, he would basically say this to Wise. Hey, Miss Shni? She would say, as she would say this. What is it? She would say, as Izuku would say this. Where are we supposed to go exactly? As she would say this. We just need to go to the auditorium. As Izuku would say this. Then where is it exactly? As she would say this. Follow me, but not you. Damn dolt, she would say. As when she said that, Ruby would just, lay down. And she would say this. Welcome to Beacon, I guess. In her, under her breath. As after hearing her say that, Izuku would start leaving with Wise. As Wise is basically carrying all of her luggage, Izuku would say this. May I help with that? As she would say this. Sure then. I mean, it's probably pretty heavy for you. As Izuku would say this. Oh, don't worry. I can manage. As Izuku would basically, lift off his sleeve, as he would say this. Now, they have a path. After saying that, his, palm-like eye would basically, open up. As Weiss would say this. Wait, what the? As the dust, or more specifically her luggage, would start to float. As Izuku would say this. Now, we should probably start moving. As she would say this. Is that your semblance? As Izuku would say this. More like one of my semblance's abilities. I call it the Deva Path. Or at least, one of the Renegon's abilities. As she would say this. Renegon? As Izuku would say this. Well, my semblance is called Dojutsu. It basically gives me several different abilities, like for example, my Sharingan and my, and my Tenseigan, but I won't be showing you those because, I prefer not to show my face all that much most of the time. After hearing this, she would say this. I see. Very well then. As after a while basically walking around, they would make it to the auditorium as, Izuku would basically put her luggage nearby, as she would say this. Thank you. As Izuku would say this. Oh, Izuku Midoriya. He would basically bow, as she would say this. Very well then. Hope to see you again. As Izuku would say this. Yeah, you too. After saying that, they would basically part ways. Wait for a second. Sorry about that. So, as we see, Izuku basically going towards the little seat nearby. As, after sitting down, he would notice that he would see a girl. Another girl, to be more precise. This girl seems to have red hair and... a girl with red hair and greenish eyes, as she also seems to be wearing somewhat, gladiatory, aka, sort of Roman/Greek type outfit. Or battle outfit in this case, as Izuku would recognize her, as she would look over, as she would say this. Oh, hello there. Nice to meet you. As Izuku would say this. You're Pyranika, as she would say this. Great. As after hearing this, Izuku would say this. Don't worry, I'm not those types of fanboys. Trust me. She would say this. Really? Huh. Then, why are you... As Izuku would say this. Well, I'm pretty much impressed, seeing that you're here. I mean, I'm pretty much sitting right next to you. And not only that, you're one of the strongest people in all of Remnant. As she would say this. Yeah, I get that a lot, but I would rather just be called a normal girl that much. As after hearing this, Izuku would say this. Huh, quite modest, I guess. As she would say this. Yeah, I guess so. After hearing this, Izuku could say this. Anyway, because you already introduced yourself to me, I guess it's time for me to introduce you to myself then. I guess it's time for me to introduce myself then. After hearing this, she would say this. I guess, as Izuku introduced himself, he would say, the name's Izuku Midoriya. I'm from, well, Mistral, or at least formerly from Mistral. I decided to move here to become a hunter, as she would say this. Very well then. As they would shake hands, as for some odd reason, Pyro would start to have a little bit of pink on his face. Pink on her face. I should say, why do I feel like somebody's, you know, why do I feel like this person right now seems to be quite handsome on the inside? Or at least under his mask. As she would also say, and why do I feel so red in my face, she would say. As after noticing this, Izuku would say this. Anyway, we should probably get ready. I think there's probably going to be a speech or something. After hearing this, she would say, yeah, you're probably right. After hearing this, they would look over and would see the speech would start. As they would see, Ozpin would basically, introduce himself, saying that it's going to be a fine year to see all of these young huntsmen and huntresses to basically show their skills, and basically become great protectors of their world. And not only that, see them flourish as huntsmen and show them, how strong they are. And after saying all of that, they would basically be told to basically go to the, to the auditorium room, sort of. It's more like the cafeteria room to basically, get some sleep there. Because, the dorms are still not, fixed yet. And after being told of this, they would start leaving to go to, to the, cafeteria area. As everybody's basically, getting their sleeping stuff. Izuku is currently, changing all of his clothes into, somewhat normal, attire. More specifically, let's just say, like, just imagine like this. He's basically wearing, like, some simple, like, shorts and, wearing a simple, like, tank top. But it's so tight that you can probably see, like, his muscles. Just imagine imagine his muscles like this, similar in the anime. More specifically, yeah, maybe like, post time skip. More specifically, just imagine, Izuku's, muscles being the same as, like, him during his, whole anti-hero outbreak. So, yeah, as Izuku's basically changed his clothes, he would basically, take off his mask, because, it's finally sleeping time. After, taking off his mask and deciding to, put it, like, I guess you could say on the side, like, imagine him basically having that, type of mask-like thing, almost similar to, a certain, character from, what is that called? From Demon Slayer. I can't remember his actual name. He's originally the friend of, like, Giyu, or at least I think that's his name. It's been a long time since I actually watched Demon Slayer. Anyway, continuing on, as we see Izuku basically getting out of the, changing room, almost every single girl is basically looking at him in either lust or, something of that sort. As when RWBY recognizes the mask on the guy's face while she was still pretty much blushing, she would say, "Is that Izuku?" She would say, as when Yang would look over and would see Izuku's face, she would say, she would like whistle, like one of those whistles that you would see in, like, in typical cartoons where she's like, woo woo, like one of those. As she would say, huh, I didn't know that cutie was actually that cute, she would say. As currently, Weiss was there, as she would notice the, his body and, his face, as currently she's nosebleeding thinking, so, here's the guy that, helped me out. I did know that he was that handsome under that mask, she would say, as she's currently nosebleeding. As currently, with, Pyra, yeah, Pyra's currently, nosebleeding to death, basically, already knocked out. As Izuku would start to think, well, that's weird. Currently in a different area, or in a different plane of existence, more specifically in a different plane of existence. Currently me basically laughing. Just imagine me just like going like, soon you'll have a fucking harem. He would basically say, as nearby the angels are saying to themselves, do we seriously have to, work with this guy? Like all of them would just say. As currently, Michael would say this. Trust me, I mean, he's pretty much a good guy, but trust me, the last time I tried to trust him with my daughter, well, you probably know why, he would say. Remembering, his, his sort of like, how do we see this? His, granddaughter, aka, it's Lavenza, I meant. As, after remembering her and her obviously disastrous, invasion, if you don't know, back in my what if I was in My Hero Academia, you remember, Lavenza, aka my OC's daughter, aka my daughter. Yeah, let's just say, oh boy, let's just say she's sort of fucked up, to say the least. But thankfully, she was, good at the end. Thankfully, she didn't, take over the world. And thankfully, Izuku from that world, aka, the one that basically became, one of the Inferni Knights, didn't, enslaved every quirk user and turned them into, turned them into freaking slaves, just like in his old world. Yeah, oh boy. After saying that, he would say this. Yeah, trust me, he's pretty much good at heart, but sometimes he just likes causing chaos. As one of them would say this. Well, he is the second generation of, Phantom Thieves. And, I mean, he was, sort of trained by Akira, aka the Joker, he would say. As one of them would say this. Yeah, agreed. He would basically say one of the angels. Back with Izuku. As Izuku was basically getting ready to go to sleep, he would start to hear the sound of arguing, which is probably from, from them, aka RWBY and also Wise. But Izuku decided to ignore it, as Izuku would basically wrap himself in his, in his blanket, in his, mattress, as he would basically fall asleep. So, we're gonna be ending this episode right off here, so yeah. So, I hope you liked the video, comment and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. But before you guys leave, well, it's because of this. This one, I'm gonna be probably doing this, aka a little bit of some lore about my character, aka my avatar, aka Jack. And probably some others, like for example, my version of Izuku, Kara, things of that sort. And probably, some other side characters, like for example, Team Disaster, aka a, infiltration group from an AU that I'm probably gonna make, where they're basically acting as like a group to basically infiltrate, Remnant's ranks, and basically take over it. And maybe some other stories, maybe. If you want to, then maybe comment down below. If you comment down below, I will probably do that. Maybe. So yeah, I'm gonna be ending this episode right off here because, school and funk school. Anyway, continuing on. So yeah, I hope to see you guys next time. Bye-bye!